All right, for the first time since the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act became a law in 2021, the federal holiday observing the date falls on June the 19th. And it was on June the 19th, 1865, that Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, announcing that in accordance with the Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln, all slaves were now free. So, what's the significance of this holiday, and how should we celebrate it? Well, join me now to talk about this is Dean Nelson, Senior Fellow for African American Affairs here at the Family Research Council and Chairman of the Douglas Leadership Institute. Dean, welcome back to the program.
Tony, thanks so much. It's great to be back, particularly on a great day like today.
Yeah, so let's jump right into this. I gave a very little background on this, but fill us in, expand on that, the history of this in its significance.
Yeah, as you stated from the onset, there was the Emancipation Proclamation, which is a huge deal that President Abraham Lincoln signed into law. But the reality was that the Civil War had not ended, and so many slaves still were not free. And so once the war ended, Abraham Lincoln sent the Union Army throughout the South to make sure that those men and women who now were free knew that they were free. And ultimately, at their last stop historically, there, as you stated, in Galveston, Texas, there were still slaveholders that were enslaving people, and they didn't know. But the force of the Union Army basically made that statement. And as General Granger did, the history shows that there were shouts of jubilee, shouts of praise and honor to God. Slaves are accounted as saying that they dropped their shovels, some of them, and they were able to walk off of a plantation, stating that they were no longer owned by someone else. And so that's the history. And since that time, there have been, even in the early, 1870s, there were, free blacks that began to, save money to purchase like places like Emancipation Park, where they would then celebrate. And so it became such a big deal in Texas. Texas for decades has now celebrated Juneteenth. And so we're just trying to honor a day of freedom. And it's really important to hear this, because my statement is that my hope is, particularly for Christians and for Republicans, because we need to own that holiday, because there too often the left tries to steal what we actually were the ones who initiated. And so my hope is that from Juneteenth through July 4th, there'll be just a season of freedom, celebration, picnics, events, parties that honor freedom, that honor America. And that's kind of what we did today. And thank you for the Family Research Council and sponsoring the great event that we had here in the D.C. metro area earlier today.
Dean, I want to build on that a little bit. But Jubilee Day, as it was also referred to, has its roots in the Bible. I mean, this is a celebration of freedom as understood in the biblical context. So in a day that we've become so politically divided, where anything is aligned with the left, we don't want to touch it. This, as you said, goes back before the left ever tried to take ownership of this. So as Christians, how should we approach this holiday and what it stands for?
I think number one, we all should just be informed. There's a great article, many articles. I saw one today in the Virginia Pilot, written by someone from the Heritage Foundation. I wrote a piece a year ago in World Magazine. So just really becoming acquainted with it. I think, as you've emphasized, though, the spiritual significance, if you can think just for a moment, for slaves that had been praying for decades for their freedom, ultimately, when they see a Union general in his Union Army come and pull the scroll and read that they are now free, and by the force of their decree, as well as the backed by the guns that they had, they could basically state, "Hey, you're free." And I think that idea, as they refer to it as Jubilee Day, slaves being set free, debts being canceled, I think that's a great opportunity for us to celebrate. And again, an emphasis on not celebrating it in place of July 4th, Independence Day, because let's face it, if there was never an Independence Day, there would never have been a Juneteenth. And so our hope is that people would particularly Christians, would lean into it to understand that and to find, groups, churches that may be celebrating it and honoring that day and honoring America and not taking it. There are some Juneteenth celebrations that you and I wouldn't want to be a part of because they are not celebrating the great history of America. So I would just encourage people to learn more about it and then find a place where they can participate and celebrate just like we did today.
Good advice. Dean, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tony, for sharing on this important day. God bless you.